Hey everyone, Daniel here and welcome back to another video. I hope all of you are having a phenomenal day out there as always. Here today, Voyager Digital just came out and released their Q1 earnings report, and in this video we have a ton to talk about exactly what they reported, what potential numbers are for April, what they said in the conference call, and exactly what my thoughts are on Voyager moving forward. So if you end up finding any value in this video whatsoever, please consider subscribing and let's get into it. So right before we take a look at our actual numbers for Q1, let's take a look at my estimates and analyst estimates on top of that. First and foremost, I had estimated around $60 million in total revenue for January, February, and March of 2021. And if you want to watch my video explaining how I got these numbers, I'll link it in the description down below. This is what I thought. And analysts at that same time thought in and around $46 million. Analysts also thought a small profit on the bottom line, and I kind of put that into context when it comes to how many millions of dollars they need to hit when it comes to this analyst expectation. Well, here today, Voyager Digital reported their numbers. What did we get? We got $60 million in revenue for Q1, pretty much in line with what I had predicted. So, when we had Steve Ehrlich coming on to an interview a couple of a week or two ago, he said, "No one knows my numbers." You know what? You know who knows your numbers, Steve? The Finance Channel and the community at the Finance Channel. So if you enjoy this content and appreciate these in-depth look into these numbers that Voyager reports, again, please consider subscribing. Feel free to hit that like button. But anyways, I'm not here to talk about the past. We're here to talk about the present and the future. So let's get into it. Voyager Digital reports record revenues of $60 million with a 50% operating margin, generating an operating profit of $30 million for the third fiscal quarter. When we talk about Voyager, their quarterly kind of fiscal year is different. So when they mention third quarter, we're really talking about January, February, and March. That's very important to know. 50% operating margins, guys. I kind of just skimmed over that. 50% is absolutely huge for any company out there in the world, especially a company like Voyager. So 50%, that's after factoring all expenses, like general and administrative expenses, like research and development, and like potentially kind of running your business and the cost of running transactions. After all of that, they have a 50% operating margin. That is absolutely huge. After taxes, that might equate to a potential net income margin of anywhere from 35 to 40%, which we'll look at in a moment. But right off the bat, that is absolutely phenomenal news when it comes to the profitability and the revenue front. On top of that, this company is executing on such a high level with operating profit of $30 million. Now, I don't want to be too repetitive, so what I did is I highlighted some of the most important things in this report so I can save you guys some time. So the company continues to experience accelerated growth in April and May. That is very, very big, especially when it comes to the next earnings report. We'll take a look at my updated projections for the month of April. It's absolutely shocking, guys. Verified users currently exceed 1.6 million. That is huge growth. I mean, just at the end of March, we had 1 million verified users. So now we're at 1.6 million, really showcasing the growth this platform is experiencing. And you'll see there's a lot of green here. Total revenue for the fiscal year 2021, $60.4 million, up 16x quarter over quarter. Huge growth, but I know a lot of YouTubers out there will be looking at these massive tens of thousands of percentage point gains year over year. You can't compare Voyager year over year. I mean, they weren't barely a platform and barely a company back then. The company has changed so significantly, but they're experiencing a lot of growth alongside that. Again, operating profit, an operating margin of 50%, huge. Company ended the fiscal year 2021 quarter with capital of $200 million. That's big in allowing them to expand moving forwards with their marketing campaigns and increasing their headcount alongside that. But keep in mind, now that they're profitable, they don't need to raise money. They really don't, because they just did a quarter with $30 million in operating profit. That's all going to go down to the bottom line, right? I mean, after taxes, of course, and we'll touch a little bit more about kind of how warrants really impacted their bottom line. But generally speaking, moving forwards, we can expect Voyager to take all this money coming from their business, which is obviously absolutely phenomenal at this moment in time and will be very profitable moving forwards, and taking that, putting it onto the balance sheet, investing it back into the company, and potentially doing share buybacks, which they announced a couple of weeks ago. Now, $5 billion in principal value traded for the third quarter. Again, I really don't like to bundle all 3 months together because Voyager is growing so quickly that, if you just take a look at what they did in January, February, and March, that doesn't give credit to the business whatsoever, because what they did in March was pretty much 3x what they did in January. And again, we'll take a look at that number in a moment here. But, with Voyager, they're growing so significantly to where you can't take a look at them on a quarterly basis. You need to look at this business from a monthly basis, on a kind of a monthly account of exactly what's happening with revenue growth, new account growth, and principal value traded. And I think that's one of the things that Wall Street does miss, especially with this latest report. They're looking at it quarterly. You got to look at it monthly. May new funded accounts already have well exceeded the entire month of April. That is very big, and he actually gave us a number in the conference call, exceeding 1.6 million verified accounts as of today, continuing to see massive growth across new accounts. Now, I'm not going to read this because, again, a lot of it is covered in the conference call, which we'll cover in a moment here. But if you want to read this, I'm going to link this article in the description down below. Now, looking at this a little bit deeper, we can take a look at exactly what their operating income was, and we can see that it was actually heavily disrupted by one main thing, and that is change in value of warrant liability. Now, what is this? It's pretty simple. A few months ago, back in 2020, Voyager went ahead and raised money. They actually raised some money back in January and February, but in the process of doing that, they actually kind of diluted the shares through warrants, and warrants essentially give someone the right to buy a share at a certain price by a certain date. And the thing is, with these warrants, as the price of the stock increases, the value of these warrants increases alongside that. So despite it is an excess dilution on the part of the company, it does show up on their income statement. So kind of moving forwards, at least until these warrants do end up expiring, we're going to get a situation where the price of the stock dictates what their net income is. And although that does make it a little bit difficult to kind of track down exactly what their net income is and their profitability, we can kind of say, all right, $30 million in operating income, pretty much the only expense that comes after that is taxes, right? And the company did say that they do expect to have 50% EBITDA margins, which essentially they just pretty much hit. So what we need to do moving forwards is take a look at this operating income and use this instead of the net income margin, because this change in the warrant value really skews the net income in a way that doesn't really create a lot of transparency when it comes to the actual profitability of the company. But needless to say, they're clicking on all cylinders, and the profitability they recorded in this quarter when it comes to their operating income is absolutely phenomenal and makes me very optimistic moving forwards. Keep in mind, this kind of accounting trick, whatever you might want to call it, it's a very short-term thing, right? And in a couple of quarters, it's going to go away, and we're going to get Voyager being more of a normal company in the sense that, its price of stock won't dictate exactly what their net income or their net loss is. This is just something in the accounting world that happens when you issue warrants. Now, when we talk about exactly what happened here in this quarter and trying to compare it to what we saw in April, because just like I mentioned previously, Voyager is a company you want to look at on a monthly basis. This is going to shock you guys. Well, this is kind of my chart here that I use when it comes to predicting kind of what Voyager has reported and is maybe going to report in the future. And I've kind of plotted in the chart here exactly what they reported here in Q1. $8.6 million in January, $20 million in February, $31.8 million in the month of March. Now, what we saw in the month of April is principal value traded as a percentage going down to revenue increasing by 45%, not 45 basis points, 45%. So in March, we saw 1.27% of principal value traded moving down to essentially revenue. And what we saw in the month of April was this percentage increase. Why? One main reason, an increased spending, or rather trading, of altcoins which have higher spreads and generate more revenue for Voyager. So using this number that we have here and using the figure, that 45% figure that Voyager gave us just a couple weeks ago, we can assume that 1.84% of essentially principal value traded goes down to revenue. Now, what can we also kind of decipher from all of this? They had assets under management of $3.3 billion at the end of April. Assuming that kind of assets under management stay pretty stagnant with principal value traded, we can assume revenue in the range of $60.8 million for the sole month of April. And this is why I'm showing you guys this and kind of just putting a little bit of a pause on looking at this actual report in a moment. But, the revenue that this company is about to do in the month of April, or about to report in a couple of months for the month of April, May, and June, is going to significantly outpace what we just reported here in quarter one, right? So when you have people talking about how this is a blowout quarter, just wait for the next quarter because you will be shocked. Voyager is a company growing at such a significant pace to where we got to keep an eye on this on a monthly basis. And as soon as Voyager reports their next data for potentially the month of May, you best know that I'm going to cover it here on this channel. So anyways, now that we kind of went through exactly what happened with the earnings report, exactly what happened with net income, and how we can expect this to translate potentially to revenue for the month of April, now let's take a look at exactly what Steve Ehrlich and the team said at the conference call. And I'm going to be very honest with you and preface this right before we get started. This may have been the most exciting conference call to watch as an investor, listen to as an investor. It was absolutely phenomenal. I hope to communicate that to you right now. So Steve Ehrlich kind of started by making some remarks about Voyager as in the company and the progress they have been making. First and foremost, he sees what we just reported in Q1 as just the beginning. And he is seeing continued momentum from what we saw in March into April and into May, which is absolutely phenomenal and really, really helps solidify our opinions as to what we saw in April potentially continuing and escalating throughout the remainder of the quarter. I really do believe this when I say this. I think their next quarter will have over $200 million in revenue. At the very least, that might be bearish. That is bearish, to be completely honest. This company is about to blow minds next quarter. They also mentioned a very interesting statistic that 85% of their total revenue came from altcoins and 15% came from larger coins like Bitcoin and Ethereum, further showcasing that the altcoins, the smaller coins, are much more profitable for the business and generate much more money. Now, when we talk about growth moving forwards, they're focusing on marketing and believe that this is vital to growth at the company moving forwards and in generating more revenue, more users, and more transactions on a monthly basis. Now, talking about profitability, Steve Ehrlich mentioned this. He expects margins to expand moving forwards. They have a 50% operating income margin, and Steve said he expects this to expand. Why is this? Because a lot of Voyager's costs are actually fixed, meaning that it only costs them a certain amount of money to run the business, and as they acquire new customers, those expenses don't really increase. So what we see is a kind of a chart where revenue is increasing and expenses are, potentially staying flat, or kind of increasing very slightly alongside that, which obviously helps with margins and is why I personally believe that, operating income margins at the company could potentially get to 55, even 60% within the next couple of quarters here. And obviously that would make them significantly more profitable than a company like Coinbase. Absolutely great. The average amount of times that a Voyager consumer trades on the Voyager platform is 10 times per month, really showcasing again why Voyager is so much profitable and collects so much more revenue per customer than a lot of the other platforms, because their customers trade more. And that's absolutely phenomenal because, again, the more customers you onboard, and obviously a lot of these customers are high trading customers, the more revenue you generate and the more money Voyager makes on the bottom line to allow them to expand into new areas and new sectors within the cryptocurrency industry and generate more profit for shareholders. Now, talking about the balance sheet, they mentioned that it's in a very good spot at this moment in time and will allow for huge growth within users and customer service. Like we said in the past, like Steve Ehrlich has said in the past, they plan on making Voyager the best customer service platform in the cryptocurrency industry, really focusing on customer satisfaction, which is something that we've known to be a bit of a problem throughout January and February, but it's been getting better over the past couple of months, and that's very, very good to hear. Now, they're focusing on marketing right now, like we mentioned previously, as they do believe it is vital to growth, and one of the ways they're doing this is by continuing to expand with partnerships and new ways of marketing. For example, the new partnership that we covered a couple of weeks ago with Victor Oladipo through their new kind of charity giving referral program. Now, Talking about technology, Voyager continues to attract high-level talent throughout the industry from a lot of blue-chip companies. Very interesting when you actually said that. And although they are experiencing a lot of short-term kind of hurdles, they do say that in the long term and over the next couple of months, they expect these problems to improve significantly. And we have seen this, with deposit times, with withdrawal times, with waitlist times. They've been improving significantly just by what I've been seeing in the comment section down below. Don't look at Twitter because there's a lot of people just spreading fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Take a look at it from actual people. In the comment section, a lot of these individuals watch me on a regular basis. I know them, I've talked to them, and they're experiencing much better kind of wait times and withdrawal times from Voyager as a platform. Now, they plan on using different aspects of technology to further decrease wait times and expedite the entire process. So this is things like artificial intelligence or improving their servers overall to allow for more capacity and smaller wait times. This is very good. And obviously artificial intelligence and these new systems can be paired along more customer service from Voyager and themselves. So they're really trying on focusing on two main things. One, customer service with actual people, and two, improving their actual servers to create an ideal scenario where a majority of people don't need customer service and can essentially just, take care of their withdrawal or take care of their deposit through the Voyager platform without having to contact an actual person. Now, as I mentioned previously, they have been experiencing speed bumps, but longer term, they are optimistic. Now, next thing I want to focus in on is partnerships. And this is very, very interesting here. They actually mentioned this. One of the ways they're planning on growing more significantly and taking a lot of the weight and the burden off of their actual team is by partnering with companies. And they've done this a lot. For example, with Block Daemon to allow customers on Voyager to stake their holdings. With Market Rebellion to allow for equity trading, stock trading on their platform. With Lottery.com for payment transactions. And new partnerships are coming for Roth IRA accounts, so that's potentially retirement accounts, and NFTs, non-fungible tokens, which has taken the world by storm over the past couple of months, allowing individuals to trade NFTs, which are essentially digital pictures or digital videos. Very, very interesting stuff going on here with Voyager, and shows how they're managing to expand into so many different industries while still being able to focus on their current platform. So, they have their current team trying to make their platform as good as possible, but all these different partnerships, a majority of them are getting taken care of by essentially different partnerships and partnerships with different companies, which takes a lot of the weight off of Voyager. Now, in terms of market volatility, this is important. They have had 0 losses in their loan book. This is big because I've had a lot of people on YouTube in the comment section talk about how if we see an extended or significant cryptocurrency crash, we might get a situation where the loans that Voyager has given out for their cryptocurrencies, because obviously you collect interest on Voyager as they do loan out your money, you can opt in or out of that. There has been 0 losses in their loan book thus far, despite the significant drop in cryptocurrencies that we have seen. Why is this? They lend their cryptocurrencies out to high quality balance sheet institutions that aren't going to need to kind of potentially forfeit on their loans. Now, why is this? Because Voyager partners with high quality institutions with great balance sheets that really minimizes a lot of the risk of potentially having to forfeit and potentially having to liquidate in a situation for Voyager where cryptocurrencies fall in a massive way. Now, they will diversify their lending portfolio with staking. This obviously minimizes risk even further. And on top of this, talking about market volatility, all customer assets have always remained safe. And this is a major priority for them. Like I've mentioned in the past, potential delays with withdrawals or deposits will be forgotten with time, but what won't be is a security issue. So it's great to see Voyager as a company focusing on expanding their security team and really solidifying that aspect of their business. Now, this made me so excited, guys. They talked about payment processing. As we know, a couple of months ago, Voyager partnered with Lottery.com to implement their payment processing solution that allows for people to use Ethereum, Bitcoin, or other cryptocurrencies as a form of payment on Lottery.com. This made me so excited. They have plans, additional plans, to expand on the payment processing opportunity. And I'm going to tell you guys this right now. If they manage to get into payment processing on a high level, this is a huge opportunity. You look at a company like Stripe or Square, valued at $100 billion plus in market cap, and you see the opportunity that a company like Voyager has to implement payment processing with cryptocurrencies on a variety of different websites, potentially, obviously starting with lottery.com, but this could expand into potentially something like more of a mass market solution where smaller businesses can start accepting cryptocurrencies using the Voyager platform. Absolutely huge. International expansion. Canada, Europe, and New York. Those are the kind of the three we're looking at. They said they're all coming soon, but in the actual report, they did mention within the next 12 months, so they're very hopeful for this. We'll talk a little bit more about Canada, Europe, and New York expansion in the question and answers section, but there is actually a reason behind why they didn't expand into Canada and Europe as of yet. When it comes to new products, margin, credit card, debit card, no date yet, but they did mention those and re-emphasize that they are working on all of those different products and bringing them to the market. On the topic of the token swap, very important for any VGX token holders. Quote, "We are working hard and believe this will happen really soon." That's what they said. Again, they really went deeper into this in the Q&A section, but they said the token will benefit from the addition of new products alongside that. So as Voyager grows as the platform, we know the token, the VGX token, will continue to grow in value and grow in popularity as more people are incentivized to take advantage of the rewards. I do recommend you stay for another few minutes for the Q&A section because they do go deeper into the VGX token. When it comes to total funded accounts, Steve Ehrlich said 540,000 as of today. Absolutely huge. This number was 500,000 just a couple of days ago. So to see them at 540,000 now, absolutely freaking phenomenal, guys. So, congratulations for any shareholders out there. This company's executing on such a high level, and I'm just so happy to be able to be here and talk to you all about Voyager and the successes they're having as a company. It just makes me so happy to see this company executing on all cylinders. After that, they did repeat a lot of the things that we already know when it comes to revenues and profits and customer account growth. Just a lot of repetition in this section here. And then Q&A. This is very important. First and foremost, they talked about minority investments. Voyager is making investments into the companies that they partner with. This is very, very smart as they essentially gain exposure and understanding into a lot of these companies like potentially Block Daemon or the stock trading platform that they're partnering with to really kind of connect the companies on an even further level. When it comes to long-term margins for profitability, they do expect this to expand with time. Now, I mentioned this before, costs are fixed at Voyager for a lot of their things. So as we expand with revenue, we do expect the cost of everything when it comes to general and administrative expenses and when it comes to research and development to become a smaller portion of revenue, thus increasing operating income margins. I mean, it's already phenomenal. At 50%, man, that's great. My margins for Voyager long-term have them sitting at a 50% operating income margin. If they end up going further than that, I gotta update my models, guys. I just, anyways, just so bullish on this company. Now, on the timing of international expansion, this is very important. They actually mentioned that when it comes to Canada and Europe, they could expand to Europe right now if they wanted to. If they wanted to expand into Canada, they could probably do it very, very soon. But the reason they're not doing it is one, the opportunity in the US is already massive, and two, they need to scale their systems in order to allow for them to hold the capacity of so many new users. I mean, currently they're just in the US and they're having, potentially certain scaling issues. Imagine if we added Canada and Europe on top of that. So once this 120-day system upgrade completes to where they can have 10 million verified users on the platform at one moment in time, Canada and Europe will come soon. And they are maintaining patience with this, and I do value that as an investor. When it comes to New York, they're working on getting their bit license. New York only handed out one bit license in the past year to year and a half. So you just see how competitive New York is in terms of getting into that market. Once they get into New York, that is another major market. So they're just waiting on their bit license to allow for their platform to start operating within New York. Talking about the timeline for equities, nothing has been given yet, but they did say that this partnership that they do have with Market Rebellion allows them to speed up the timeline essentially, as Market Rebellion, one of the pros in the stock trading market, can do all of the dirty work when it comes to focusing on building the stock trading platform, and Voyager can focus all of their efforts and all of their energy on potentially intervening a little bit, but really focusing in on their current cryptocurrency platform, obviously Voyager Digital. Speaking to the topic of payment processing, they did mention that this is a massive opportunity, but one that is more likely to come within the next 6 to 9 months. And I mentioned this here in my notes here. Voyager is not just a cryptocurrency trading platform. They're not just an app. They are building an ecosystem. Voyager is not the future brokerage, they're a future bank. And with all these different things, such as payment processing, it will allow them to expand into so many different industries within the cryptocurrency market, and is why I think a lot of analysts and high up Wall Street ranking institutions are really missing the bigger picture with Voyager and how they're expanding and dipping their toes into pretty much every single aspect of the banking system. Now, more kind of is in the works when it comes to payment processing that can't be shared at this moment in time, but we can expect potentially more announcements to come on that front in the coming weeks and in the coming months. When it comes to dips, we talk about how it's very beneficial for the company to have these high volatile days for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and cryptocurrencies in general, as in addition to high volumes, they're net buyers on those days, and customers really take advantage of buying the dip by potentially increasing their deposits on a daily basis or depositing a lot more money to buy the dip of their favorite cryptocurrencies. So that just speaks to the fan base or the user base of Voyager as a platform. Just the fact that they're net buyers and have yet to see a day of net outflows on the platform shows how optimistic and how kind of big believers Voyager's user base is in the cryptocurrency industry. Now, next year they talked about barriers of entry. Very interesting. This is essentially Voyager's moat. How difficult is it for another platform to become Voyager? First and foremost, they said that they did more crypto volume last quarter than Square did as a company. Square is obviously, with Cash App, one of the biggest financial services in the world. And to do more volume than Square did on their cryptocurrency side of their business is absolutely phenomenal from a profitability standpoint, and it's very, very exciting alongside that. And they talk about their barrier of entry really being what they've put together here as a platform. So that's offering 58 different cryptocurrencies, a lot of different altcoins that a lot of other cryptocurrency brokerages don't let you trade. Interest on a majority of your holdings, a higher average account size than something like a Robinhood, security that is uncomparable to anything else in the industry, regulatory compliance, which is obviously very, very difficult to get. What we're seeing here with New York obviously showcases how difficult it is to have regulatory compliance, a smart order routing. Voyager connects with 10 plus different cryptocurrency exchanges to find the best price when you execute your order. Adding new coins will continue to keep them ahead of the pack and will allow them to differentiate themselves from the remainder of the cryptocurrency market. Now, on the topic of the Voyager loyalty program, they mentioned how this is a very, very important aspect of their platform and how it's one of their differentiators. They said it's really created a community within Voyager Digital, all these VGX token holders, and how over 25% of customers on Voyager at this moment in time hold VGX. We expect this number to increase dramatically when the Voyager loyalty program is actually launched. So more on that. When it comes to timing of VGX, they're saying they're trying to get this done with exchanges. It does take a bit of time, as to essentially officiate this token swap, you need to have all of these exchanges on the same board. And once this token swap is completed, we can expect maybe 45 days after, once everyone is able to participate, we'll have the launch of the Voyager loyalty program, which is when the use case of the VGX token really comes to fruition. There is that 7% interest booster at this moment in time, but we really want to see a lot of those other things that we have mentioned in the past. Now, talking about their most traded tokens, this is kind of just for fun here. They mentioned Doge, Link, Cardano, Stormex, Polkadot, and Engine. This changes on a daily and monthly basis, but again, really shows how a majority of the tokens traded on the Voyager platform are the smaller altcoins, which are much more profitable for them as a business. When it comes to Voyager's headcount, the amount of employees working at Voyager, we know they have 4x'd this over the past couple of months here, and they expect to double this further over the next 12 months. So this is new members of the technology team, the customer service team, the security team, and the marketing team, all aspects that are very, very important to Voyager. And they said revenues are expected to grow alongside this, but again, like I mentioned previously, this is a very fixed cost because Steve Ehrlich said they expect to double their customer service and their security and their technology team over the next 12 months. Man, Voyager is going to 3, 4, 5, 6x their revenues over that same amount of time. So you have a situation with Voyager where their costs are stagnant or potentially increasing slightly, but their revenue is increasing exponentially. When it comes to assets under management fluctuation, he did mention that net new deposits on the platform have been coming on a daily basis, and that there has been a ton of turnover over the past couple of days, weeks, months, to a point where assets under management isn't the best metric. Because even when cryptocurrencies fall in a massive way, although assets under management decreases, net deposits and volume traded increase substantially to a point where, it's not the best metric to use. And what Steve said is one of the best ways to look at Voyager from a revenue perspective is principal value traded. And when I generated my numbers for the month of March, February, January, we did look at principal value traded as like that base for determining what revenue is potentially for Voyager. And the last thing I want to focus in on here before I just give you guys my final thoughts, banking differentiators. Voyager is a platform that will kind of implement features of banking in the future, and one of those is a checking account, your debit card, right? And he said that you can hold USDC within your checking account and earn interest on that, which is something that a lot of other financial institutions don't really offer. And this can be applied to all aspects of banking with this staking and this kind of loan aspect of cryptocurrencies to a point where it really differentiates itself from the current system, from the current banking system, and will allow them to differentiate themselves and scoop the market share from some of these largest competitors in the industry moving forwards. So what are my overall thoughts on Voyager's Q3, technically January, February, and March, earnings report? Well, I'm absolutely amazed. I thought they did absolutely phenomenal and blew it out of the water on pretty much every single metric that they could have performed on. We now know that April revenue will most likely be more than what they did in January, February, and March combined, further showcasing the growth that this platform and this company is experiencing on a monthly basis. I'm very optimistic about this company. I think they are very misinterpreted as potentially a cryptocurrency brokerage, while in reality, they're a future bank. I'm so excited about this. Let me know what you guys think about this earnings report in the comment section down below. I really appreciate you all being here today. If you found any value in this video whatsoever, please consider subscribing, and see you all in the next one. Peace.